Good morning, folks, and welcome back to another week of trying to figure out what the wealthiest people in the country want you to believe via the pages of Australia's largest selling newspaper, to the shame and disgrace of the nation. Yes, I have a copy of the Sunday Telegraph recently deposited on the front lawn. It's a relatively mild 7 degrees here today, so not too cold. I do have to turn the heating off when I record this, otherwise the sound would be significantly worse than it is. So, you know, and after the great beanie disaster of a few weeks ago, we're not getting there again, so I'm just going to suffer in the cold for you and for art and for love. So, Sunday Telegraph, what's on the cover? The 32 most intriguing couples. All of the women on this cover, well, the collage down here, are blonde. Every single one. There is a brunette lady exiled on the other side. She would appear to be a little heavier than the other ladies, as well as having the wrong hair colour. Okay. Also, exclusive free IVF. Sydney hospitals push baby lifeline for women under 40. 2 free rounds of IVF. I feel like this is almost like some sort of drug deal, isn't it? You know, you get 2 rounds and free, and then you're going to have to pay. Because once you've started, you're probably going to keep going. I hate to think that cynically, but boy, it screams like that, doesn't it? All right, let's crack on. Let's crack in. So, Mix Picks, the editor's best. Moon landing anniversary special. Is it weird I sleep with my teddy? I'm 36. How did this happen? He was a little boy they kept in a shed. Chris Hemsworth on how that fat suit changed him. That would be an Avengers reference. Hot Pot Heaven, why Aussie families have rediscovered the humble stew. That's because meat is so expensive, because we're selling it all into the Asian market. Isn't it amazing how we've all learned how to cook brisket and lamb shanks? And they're not cheap anymore either. Look, we're gonna need some coffee for this. Still haven't succumbed to the urge for gin. Maybe next week. You never know your luck. Probably take longer, wouldn't it? Beer and sausage cops up the heat. A beer and banger police will visit butchers, pubs and supermarkets, posing as customers to make sure consumers aren't being ripped off. Right, the mystery shoppers will visit an extra 2,000 businesses a year to check they are putting the correct amount of beer in a schooner glass and sausages in a kilo pack. You know, in this day and age, you'd think they could just put the sausages in a pack and weigh them and just sell them by whatever weight is in the packet, but it's good that weights and measures is still being undertaken. I don't know who's still drinking out of a schooner glass. I guess the old men who read the Sunday Telegraph. John Jarrett's accuser is broken. The woman who accused actor John Jarrett of sexually assaulting her more than 40 years ago said she was devastated after he was found not guilty. The woman, who can't legally be named, told the Sunday Telegraph, "I don't want what has happened to discourage other women from coming forward." I'm leaving that alone. Right, women under 40 IVF, page 5. Page 4, Harvey Norman's Hardly Normal sale. So he's embracing the Hardly Normal tag. I don't know, maybe that was always his. Cool, nothing particularly striking this week in the large TV market. A Hisense 65-inch is a bargain buy at $9.95, but I do not know that brand. Meanwhile, a 43-inch Sony is just $100 cheaper, so there's your brand premium. CASA ruling, it is safe to fly Rex, which is nice after the Telegraph dragged him through the mud last week. Right, apparently Merrick Watts is going to replace Steve Price at 2GB. This is the Sunday Telegraph still acting as if anyone cares what happens on 2GB, but I mean, I get some people care, but I'm really not sure this is the matters of national significance that should dominate the pages of Australia's largest selling newspaper. Right, number of immunised children has hit a record high. Well done, Australia. Well done. Alright, someone's claiming that Zoe Foster Blake stole parts of the novel The Wrong Girl. You're going to need to sit in the courtroom to form your own judgment on that, let me tell you, because certainly, I mean, writing is a process of the transfer of ideas, and there's only really 7 stories, and then it's just variations on the themes. So, watching the wicked, high-risk offenders in a house near you, stranger danger, monsters on a short leash, and then we're putting terrorists in with the pedophiles somehow here. The brother of a terrorist has been charged with breaching his extended supervision order after allegedly deleting internet searches about ISIS and stolen rocket launchers. It's just people we hate page, I think. Don't get me wrong, I hate child abuse. I'm not too keen on terrorists. I just suspect that pathologies might be somewhat different. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Now, here's a weird one. It's just youth leader preyed on teen. They're not saying what organisation. There's a little reference to a group leader, which makes me think it might be Scouts of some sort. But that's the trouble with all these child protection, privacy things, which I'm not criticising, but it does make reporting almost farcical. A thing happened, and we all think it's bad. So the Friend in Hand pub in Glebe has been sold on condition that the bird has to be allowed to stay there, which does make one wonder if the owner of the pub enjoys the bird's company if he's ditching it. Okay, so our next NRL player's now working as a garbo. They got him towing wheelie bins down the street by hand, which I don't think is how garbos work these days. And he's going to be on Ninja Warrior. A friend of mine's going to be on Ninja Warrior, so I will actually be watching. At a viewing party, not on my Telegraph. They're not getting the ratings. Not from me, anyway. Alright, tickets are going on sale for the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games, if that's your bag. So there's been a stabbing in Chippendale. Double stabbing. Neighbours heard cries of help, help. Oh, apparently you can now rent kids to make your kids' party look like it's not a dismal failure. I think if your kid has no friends, you should be working on that rather than just hiring someone for your events. A CCTV system hasn't worked, that's hardly news. So a guy at a European martial arts, well, the Australian Medieval Combat Federation's copped an axe to the head. I guess it's a somewhat unusual story, but it doesn't seem enormously different to the injuries that happen on every football field in the country on a regular basis, where an ambulance may be required. You might be able to see there's a sword hanging up there. I know a little bit of this world. The guy's helmet worked. Holy moly, Miranda Devine on page 19 already. What Raylene Castle really thinks of the Bible. Raylene Castle is the boss of the rugby union. Right, Miranda is up in arms that the Bible... Raylene Castle has effectively damned the Bible. When you say someone has effectively done someone, what you mean is they have not actually done this thing. Miranda is outraged that anyone would say any part of the Bible is hate speech, which is absolute garbage, Miranda. Large chunks of the Bible would absolutely be hate speech. Most of the Old Testament is there just as a reference point for how vile the faith could be before it was reformed by the New Testament. The thing that bugs me most about these, they're not even right-wing, these Telegraph pundits, is for a pretty godless lot of people with a very, very minimal understanding of actual Christian faith. God, they've got a lot of opinions about it. Next headline of Miranda's hypocrisy behind Keneally's defence of whistleblowers, which just ad hominem attack after ad hominem attack, incomprehensibly elevated to the shadow cabinet. The last person who should be leading Labor's attack on home affairs is Christina Keneally. And then just mentioning Keneally's past as a puppet of Eddie Obeid. all of which may or may not be true, but it doesn't get to the substance of Peter Dutton's attacks on whistleblowers, does it? Tree laws hatchet job. Locals allowed to chainsaw foliage threat. Hundreds of trees face the chainsaw after council passed laws automatically allowing residents to chop down plants threatening their homes. Nice one. Someone's been working on that for a while. Allowed to remove trees within 5 metres of their homes. I've lived with large trees around houses all my life, and I don't think they should be planted within 5 metres of homes, frankly. It's just asking for a bad night when the wind blows. Plus leaves in the gutters there. Trees, who needs them? No, don't get me wrong, I love trees. There's a place for them. Too close to buildings, maybe not. Property market is caught in a kind of catch-22 situation. Agents claim many would-be sellers have been holding off listing their homes on prices stop falling, and they see strong sales results in their area, but because so many owners have adopted this attitude, too few homes are being listed to provide the evidence of improvement they're seeking, creating the situation where no one is listing because none of their neighbours are. I suspect this is real estate agents trying to justify the situations they're finding themselves and their customers in, and not actually how participants in this market think. Right, kids in the West miss out on ethics. Primary school students in Sydney's West and Southwest are missing out on ethics classes because their parents can't take time off work to volunteer as teachers. Really shouldn't be a necessary part of curriculum delivery, should it? Kylie Minogue has secured her 7th #1 album in the UK thanks to her new Greatest Hits album. Who the hell is buying albums? Kylie Minogue fans. Okay. Aging Kylie Minogue fans. The Secret in the Shed. So this is a 11-year-old boy being kept in a shed. Oh, who died. It's very sad. Free flu jabs for workers. Labor has called on the state government to subsidise. So it's not a thing. So it's a thing that the opposition is proposing that's being headlined as fact. It's not actually the reporter's fault. That's just a sub-editor who hasn't bothered to read the story. Well done, Australia's largest selling newspaper. Moving on. Windy City blown away, new vision for North Sydney. Oh look, it's a laneway. There's some sort of brewery or cafe operating there. North Sydney's future is looking up. The business hub is to regain its status as having the tallest building outside of the Sydney CBD. Oh, I mean, who cares? They're doing some redevelopment in North Sydney. It'll probably be delightful. They're getting really good at that stuff. Pub boss says MPs pass test. Christopher Pyne and Julie Bishop's controversial new gigs have faced accusations of failing the pub test, but Craig Laundy, their former colleague and Member of Parliament, the guy who worked on stripping the penalty rates so that his family's pub empire could pay its staff less for working on Sundays. That Craig Laundy, great guy. Some of his bars, the women have to work topless, and he stripped their wages as well as their clothes. Craig Laundy, great guy, arbiter of the pub test. 2 men have walked away from a car crash. I think you'll find most car crashes people walk away from. It's the ones they don't walk away from that we normally report in the news. Save the park or save the Brumbies. Linda Silmalis is on fire. The state government faces being straddled again with an impossible choice between saving the Snowy River Brumbies or the fragile alpine environment. Don't get me wrong, I love Brumbies. I think seeing a herd of them galloping through Kosciuszko is beautiful. But they're an ecological disaster, and confining them in a park till they breed to the point of their own dieback is terrible too. So just control the population. Do your jobs. And, you know, if some pony types are like, oh, save the horses, they can let them go take as many Brumbies out of that park as they want and put them wherever they can afford to feed them. So there's a massive surge in children being hospitalised with decaying teeth. It's being blamed on hidden sugar in food and too many sugary drinks. Might have something to do with the expense of dental care too. Linda Silmalis, still measles alert for tourist passengers on 2 domestic flights, and people in various locations sitting are at the centre of a measles alert after a man who acquired his measles in Thailand has in fact got the measles. People who are around Circular Quay, The Rocks, Manly and Berrowa between June 29 and July 2, it's only about 1 million people, should be alert for signs and symptoms of measles until 20 July. This article doesn't mention which flights they are. We will assume that those people have been contacted directly. And now we move on to the Pony Club. The Source, with political gossip with Annika Smethurst, Linda Silmalis and Miranda Wood. Alan Jones prison visits. A former Liberal staffer and reality show contestant who was jailed after trying to kill his girlfriend has been receiving prison visits from Alan Jones. Joel Betts is the 39-year-old serving a 16-year jail sentence for the attempted murder of his girlfriend, Samantha Holland. Also in Chippendale does seem to come up a lot in these stories, doesn't it? So a bit of lurid stuff here. This is almost like the crime page. Holland had jumped off the balcony of the third-floor apartment in a bid to save her life after she was stabbed repeatedly in the back and neck on April 17, 2010. So, apparently Joe Hockey's former staffer doing 16 years for attempted murders in a minimum security prison for white-collar criminals and inmates at the end of their sentences. It's nice how the system looks after its own, even after they're found guilty of attempted murder. So Annika Wells, and we should note that's Annika with one N and not to be confused with Annika Smethurst with two N's, has declared Queensland is the best country in the world. And then she misspelled the name of her own generation. She misspelled millennials. So Annika Wells, Queensland Labor, one to look for. Albo recruit, former state opposition leader Michael Daly's deputy chief of staff and head of policy has taken up a new job in the policy team of Anthony Albanese. It's not the first time Chloe Bennett has worked for a federal Labor leader. She was Kevin Rudd's acting chief of staff and previously worked for ex-Labor leader Luke Foley as head of policy. Wow, that's a glittering career of failure, isn't it? So the Liberal Party and the Electoral Commission would like fixed four-year terms for federal parliament to make all their lives easier and their power ever more untrammelled. It would require a constitutional change, which, as the dynamic trio note, is rather unlikely. So the Annika, Linda and Silmalis reckon that Jodie Mackay, the new Labor leader in New South Wales, should watch her back, as there are ambitious men around her, which is a standard in any political party, I would say. Right, so we've got another child in cupboard case. Apparently this one had a happy ending 15 years on. Good. There's a School of Rock musical coming to the Capitol Theatre. Patrick Tadros wrote that press release up. Ute rolled on foot. A man has been flung from the tray of a rolling ute which came to rest on his foot. It's good to know there's no bigger news to cover. Gabriel Gattei's in the media a lot lately. Apparently he got chopped by Packer. Oh, wait a minute. It was Jeff Jans has been in the media this week, and I think Gabriel Gattei feels the need to correct the record as a result. Isn't it great that people who are kind of famous as people cooking food on TV 20 years ago can now get in the newspaper talking about their little grudges? I can't even tell them apart, Gabriel Gattei, Jeff Jans. I mean, if they were talking, they talk differently, I'll give you that, but could we pick them out of a lineup? The Snitch. I mean, given that the rest of the newspaper is low-level crime reporting, I really don't see what a page of low-level crime report is adding, and I'm sure Ava/Ava, Benny Morrison and Brendan Hills wonder the same thing themselves. So here we go. Censuses are really important, and buried on page 37, it has the news that one of the first questions on the Australian census asking whether you're male or female is likely to be changed to include other sex and gender identity options. Now, you can have whatever views you want to about gender fluidity, but getting the damn data right in the first place so we can have rational conversations about where resources need to be allocated is actually really important, and this is a great step by the ABS. And at the moment, at least, it appears the Telegraph is playing it pretty neutral, which is good because hopefully this will happen and not get derailed by idiots. Okay, Australia's most intriguing couples. Who have we got? Let me read this paragraph to you. Some celebrity twosomes make perfect sense. Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz. Barack and Michelle Obama. Others make no sense at all. Cameron Diaz and Benji Madden. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Why doesn't that make sense? Sunday Telegraph. You're not being racist again, are you? Having talked about intriguing couples who are not Australian, not one of them, we then get stuck with the local celebrities. So who have we got? Erica Packer and Enrique Martinez Celaya, Sam Kerr and Nikki Stanton, Kyle Chalmers and Madison Wilson, Christine Centenera and Joel Edgerton. So Joel Edgerton, Erica Packer I've heard of. There's a lot of people I don't know here, and I don't think anyone else does. James Packer and Kylie Lim. Is it the couple that's intriguing, or are they just naming people who are famous and powerful and have a partner? I think that's what we're doing here. Liam Hemsworth and Miley Cyrus, who would at least, be moderately interesting to have around for dinner. I'll pay that one, mostly in a curiosity kind of way. James Packer would be fascinating to have around for dinner. So Jodie Mears, and this is largely a list of people who had sex with James Packer in some level. I think. I could be wrong. Oh, yeah. I'm right on that one. Daniel Johns and Michelle Leslie. Not that they've publicly confirmed they're in a relationship. Why would we let that stop us? Dylan Alcott and Chantel Otten. Delta Goodrum and Matthew Copley. Yeah, this is just one famous person who's with someone else. Turns out there are no intriguing couples in Australia. They tried, they looked. There's some interesting people, and yeah. And I note that the Hemsworth and Miley Cyrus, they're bringing a ringer in there to make up the second part of that couple too. Okay, football. Millionaires are still running into each other, and people with much less money and opportunity are paying good money to support this. Onto the horse torture, where we don't even pay the athletes particularly well. Form guide for people who haven't figured out how to do betting on their phones yet. Apparently active holidays are hot right now. We've got a picture of an old person paddleboarding through ice. Igloos. Oh, apparently Natalie Bassingthwaite's getting real. Good for her. The new look casserole. Body and soul. Time to hit the slopes. Snow holiday. Here's a hot tip for your snow holiday. Go to Chile or New Zealand and get some proper mountains with some proper snow. Pilates helped me surf again. Win a weekender. And you can go caravanning. Today's code word is Dometic. Enter at winaweekender.com.au. Get your copy of tomorrow's paper for another chance to win. What a great promo for selling newspapers to very old people. Okay, what do we got on the recipes page? Cod bites with lemon and samphire. Where do you get cod in Australia? Cod cheeks. 400 grams of cod cheeks. I think the Sydney Fish Market's the only place you're going to get that. Hey, I could be wrong. I don't buy a lot of fish. Maybe I'm wrong about that. It's like Miranda Devine talking about religion, isn't it? Cajun sweet potato hash. Mussels in parsley with lemon dressing with rye croutons. That's just stuff thrown together, isn't it? Is it weird to sleep with Mr. Ted at age 36? Yeah, it turns out the answer from the expert is if it makes you happy and your partner doesn't mind, it's none of our business. Which is the answer to pretty much every question in that sodding advice column is, it's really none of our business. Just do what works for you as long as no one's getting hurt. It's not that hard a moral code, but the Sunday Telegraph seems to be, for all their faux religiosity, really struggle with that, don't they? There's a lot of pages of skincare. It's not going to help the Sunday Telegraph subscribers. A lot of vitamins, and Michael Clark is an ambassador for Wagner is the name they're putting on them. I mean, it all comes out of the same factory. They just put different names on it. Here's some Protec. Oh, dedicated prostate. Formula 60. Now that's a trick as old as time in the snake oil business is you start putting numbers on things so you don't say what's actually in it, so people can't just go and buy the ingredients and take it themselves. Also means you can change it at any time. The ingredients get expensive. There's a lot of upsides to that. My God, I feel like there's 20 pages of dietary supplements going on here. Oh, you can get Star Wars branded toothbrushes. That'll make everything better, won't it? Health this month. Eating ourselves to death. Obesity. Yep. Apparently there's a push on to list obesity drugs on the PBS, which some doctors think we should just all be more disciplined. Well, you know, we've tried that. It's not working, so maybe let's give the pills a go. Except they're really expensive. Telling people to diet more and exercise more, though. I mean, I would love to have nothing else to do with my day than go for runs and cook whole food, organic meals with ingredients that I sourced fresh from the farmer's market every day. That'd be delightful. But, you know, we've got to go to work, we've got obligations, we've got things we've got to do, and the result is the lifestyles that make us fat. More sport. Oh, millionaires driving cars. Jessica Halloran. What do we got? Loyal Sydney coach John Longmire has reached a crossroads as he weighs up a monster offer from the Kangaroos, which is where he played for most of his career. Okay, we're back to celebrity couples. Divided town united for Theo. So Byron Bay is still trying to find this lost Belgian dude. Theo hires, I do hope. It'd be nice if he'd just been in an Airlie Beach share house for the last 6 weeks, hanging out with other backpackers and not reading the news, but I fear that's not what's coming here. Page 83. We start the world news, and they are actually tackling the Persian Gulf and Iran, which is something I've been banging on for weeks about a lack of coverage, given how it's really going to affect people in this country if it goes off. So the British have seized an Iranian oil tanker on suspicion that it's breaching Syrian sanctions. The Iranians are threatening to seize an English oil tanker. Overnight on Twitter, there was quite a kerfuffle. An English tanker stopped in the Persian Gulf for a few hours and changed its status to being not under control. And people thought the Iranians had seized it, but it turned out it was just waiting for a port spot to free up. Which just goes to show these maritime trackers can be really handy for reconstructing events afterwards, but when people who don't know what they're looking at start looking at them, we can have panics, which is true of a great deal of data available on the internet, and I am as guilty as anyone of trying to grab a scoop by doing that. Anyway, at the moment, as of the time of creating this, we're not at war. We used to be able to take that sort of thing for granted, didn't we? US teachers taught to be armed and deadly. Greek PM's desperate fight to keep power. Speaking of censuses, Donald Trump wants to get a citizenship question on the census. I suspect that will be so they can cut services to areas where lots of people live, but they are not citizens. Apparently to date the Supreme Court has barred the question, but they're not going to let that stop them, particularly now that they've got a new Supreme Court. Hong Kong is still on the boil. Now here's a nod to climate change someone snuck in. Anchorage, Alaska's recorded a record high of 32 degrees. People are wearing shorts on the glaciers. But it's not like we need to do anything about the coal industry. Health hacker. Got a photogenic blonde woman in pink. She can't drink wine anymore, having developed health happiness. Jamie Rogers. Oh, she's a Sky presenter, so we're bumping up our portfolio again. And here we go. They put her on page 87 this week. Peter Credlin. PM facing another test of his leadership. That means Peter wants something. So Peter is banging the drum for Jim Molan, the retired general and one-time Senate casual vacancy filler, who she feels was entitled to a better spot. I mean, he did get a record personal vote in the last election, like all-time record for a personal vote for anyone. I mean, you know, New South Wales always grows, so someone getting a high vote there is a good chance of that record, but he got it. I think she's suggesting he should be back in the Senate. It's hard to tell exactly what she wants. And particularly she doesn't want to go to a pre-selection. Okay. Thumbs up from Peter. Matthias Cormann got the tax cuts through. I mean, sure, we've taken a sledgehammer to progressive taxation in this country, which was something that I thought we all agreed on, but no. Thumbs down. The Dash for Cash by Christopher Pine and Julie Bishop. Now, Peter tells us how to deal with foreign fighters. I know this is in a tiny font. This is like ant writing. The average Sunday Telegraph reader is not going to be able to read this anyway. Even though they're Australian citizens, they have taken up arms against our way of life. That's an interesting proposition. I didn't know that our way of life was protected under law in that way. I don't think it is. And again, I'm not an advocate for Islamic State or terrorism, but I would note that as many an Islamic kid has noted, or Muslim, I should say, kid has noted that the Jewish kids all go and do national service for Israel. And that's apparently okay. And let's not get started about the Australian Defence Force personnel who work as soldiers of fortune in their leave. But these guys have picked the wrong side, and we're going to punish them for it. So Peter says, for over 2 years in this paper, I've argued we should legislate UK-style temporary exclusion orders, a form of exile for Australian former terrorists considered still dangerous, and keep them out. On Thursday, Peter Dutton introduced exactly this into Parliament. Thank God Get Up didn't get him. The one thing I would note is that this devalues Australian citizenship. What's it worth if Peter Credlin taking a dislike to you gets you out? Right, Mark Boris, the man who made illegal robocalls in the last election and was given a formal warning by the Electoral Commission, still has a page. He's asking, where is all the money? Mark says his view is largely irrelevant, and he's blaming the tightening of lending restrictions in the banks, which probably is to blame for what's happening to the real estate market. Now, I would say that the real estate market, or real estate in general, should not be the dominant investment class for any sane country, because we have to live in the damn things. Annika Smeta says tax chaos is a lesson for Labor. Depending who you talk to in Labor, returning to Canberra after its election loss was like attending your ex-girlfriend's wedding, your own wake, or a degustation of shit sandwiches. I didn't know we could use language like that in the Sunday Telegraph, but there we go. Right, Claire Harvey says, bring back Carl and his ex-appeal. I mean, I guess because Carl Stefanovic plays for the media and the Paps. Right, Piers Ackerman says the government's off to a flying start. Yeah, they've passed their tax cuts. They've got nothing else they particularly want to do except destroy our ways of life to enrich them buddies. Okay, so Warren has noted the beer police thing and has made a not very funny joke that I won't even bother holding up to you. Right, the Telegraph saying how great the IVF thing is. So the real estate section's promoting the fact the block's coming back onto the air, and there are stylish granddads on it who have this horrible pink kitchen. I don't know if you can see just how vile that is. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess being able to fit into tight jeans at a certain age does make you moderately stylish. I still fit into tight jeans, I hasten to add, but God, the belly sticks over the top. Your favourite photos. Go through your family album and send us a copy of your favourite photo and caption to see it published here. So they're crowdsourcing at page 100 with boomer fogey nostalgia, which is always... It's good for clicks on the internet, I'll tell you. everyone who sent in a photo and everyone who knows them is going to end up buying a copy of the paper. Same reason you do social photography. And I guess the Telegraph's down to that. We're weddings and babies. People still getting married, oddly enough. Right, Booksmart gets 3.5 stars, which is a lot from this page. There's a movie called After, which gets 1 star. Right, Penn and Teller are coming to the Opera House, and they've got a page, a half page. I like Penn and Teller. If I was in Sydney, I'd think about it. Right, so we've got more on Harry and Meghan. Something to keep the royal watchers distracted. I mean, almost everything in this newspaper is an exercise in distraction, isn't it? It's like having a squeak toy to keep a dog from going after the food. Someone called Angela Mollard's complaining that she hasn't had enough people telling her how great she is. Westeros correspondent Duncan Lays managed to find another story. I think Duncan's on a great wicket, just, hanging out on Game of Thrones fan forum sites and chucking a column in. Duncan informs us Lost was a brilliant sci-fi mystery series. Apparently Stephen Merchant, of Merchant Ivory fame, isn't very good at playing musical instruments. Apparently Aussie Down Under designers and models are set to dominate the world's top swimwear fashion event. Cass and Carl are selling their dream home, so good old Carl Stefanovic has still managed to get his name around while they're telling us he should come back. What's Annette Sharp up to this week? Last week was, I literally couldn't read it out here. It was grossly defamatory. So Dan from Married at First Sight has been back in court. If you're a Gold Coast car broker, it's been on maths. What are we expecting? More on breakfast TV. Right, Kochi and Martha from Maths have got some sort of feud on, and there's your squeaky toy. Look over there. Look over there. Thank you very much for coming with me on this journey. There's a small mention of politics in the Middle East. Very little mention of growing wealth inequality. The homeless got not one mention. They seem to have a pretty unpleasant lives, but unless they're photogenic small boys, no good. And of course, the climate crisis and mass extinctions are the sort of things you're being distracted from by the Sunday Telegraph. So anyway, thanks very much. Do please tell your friends and like, subscribe and share and support what we got going on here. Thanks for coming through with me, and we'll see you next week.